Have you noticed the number of web hosting companies jumping onto the whole VoIP bandwagon lately? And ISPCon's fall show is right around the corner, and we'll let you know the resource that will help you learn more about it. More fun than a room full of system administrators learning how to breakdance. This is the Web Hosting Show, and it is now on the air.
As I told you yesterday, I was going to tell you the truth, the good, the bad, and the ugly. This is the truth.
This is the Web Hosting Show, the one and only voice of the web hosting world. This show is supported each and every week by the fine folks over at Web Hosting Chat. Web Hosting Chat is your number one place for web hosting discussions, taking you through the joyride of the web hosting world. I am Mitch Keeler. Now, what I like to do for you each and every week is to break the web hosting world into smaller, bite-sized nuggets that are a little easier to swallow for all of you out there. There's a lot of information going on about the web hosting world, and I don't want you to turn your back on all of it just because it might be a little confusing. Here on this very podcast, we try to give you all of the latest web hosting news, some of my own web hosting thoughts, a few web hosting websites of the week, web hosting deals too good to be true. It just doesn't get much better than this. There are many different stories in the web hosting world out there, and I want to hear yours too. Now that I have this new mic and headset, I am ready to get to recording some more interviews to share with everybody out there, and I want to hear from anybody and everybody out there in the web hosting industry. As long as you have a story to tell, I want to hear about it. Now, the reason I say anybody and everybody is that I know how it feels to have the proverbial door shut in your face because you're not elite enough to get attention. I don't want to be the guy who only talks to the people that are already getting enough stinking attention. I want to talk to the folks that, maybe you haven't heard from in a while, or maybe you haven't heard from at all. So hit me up with an email, mitch@mitchkeeler.com. I'll talk to you if you're the leader of the biggest web hosting company out there, or if you're the smallest web hosting company out there. I want good stories. I don't want brand names. I don't want things that people already know about. I want to deliver you new and original content on this show. Now, if you have something to say or you have a question to ask, I am a very easy man to get a hold of. All you have to do is drop me an email over at mitch@mitchkeeler.com, and you can also send me a voice message over at Skype as well. My name over there is Mitch Keeler, no space in between. Now let's go ahead and get this party started. This is the Web Hosting Show. I'm Mitch Keeler, and you're listening to the one and only voice of the web hosting world. The web hosting news and headlines are brought to you each and every week by the Web Host Industry Review. The Web Host Industry Review is the place to go to get all of the web hosting information you need to know from around the globe. Our first headline for this week, ePresence Solutions offers $1.99 domains. Domain name registrar ePresenceSolutions.com announced on Monday that its customers can now register a domain name at a discounted rate of $1.99 per year with any non-domain name purchase. Now, my take on this, it's just another domain name price drop. What's the big stinking deal, right? But doesn't this deal sound a little familiar, though? The pricing and scheduling of the deal are exactly identical to the discount offered and announced last week by the domain name and hosting giant GoDaddy. I mean, come on, let's at least come out with a new deal. Let's just not rip off the competition here. I mean, price drops are good no matter what service you're providing. But let's try to come up with something new and original, something that gets attention and not just rips off the competition. Now, let's go ahead into web hosting headline number 2. It has to do with GoDaddy as well. GoDaddy adds to dedicated plans. Web hosting provider and domain name registrar GoDaddy announced on Tuesday that it had introduced new options for its virtual dedicated and dedicated hosting plans. Now, my take on this, having already taken over the whole domain name market, GoDaddy's done it. It looks like GoDaddy is now looking to take over the web hosting market as well. Now, the only question I have to leave you with here is, what will GoDaddy take over next? Let's go ahead and leave something for somebody else. Now, for web hosting headline number 3, the last headline for today's show, Verizon signs a deal with Google and Yahoo. Managed hosting provider Verizon announced on Wednesday that it had signed referral agreements with both Google and Yahoo search marketing in efforts to help customers better market themselves online. Now, my take on this, there's a lot of money flowing into this type of market these days. And I still say, forget about paying somebody else to give you search marketing or any kind of marketing in general. I say the best way to get yourself known out there is still word of mouth. You know, having your friend or a relative tell you about a website or a new service out there provided by somebody. There's just a level of trust there whenever somebody like that tells you that money cannot buy. Now, do you have any web hosting news? Make sure you send it to me at Mitch@MitchKeeler.com, and I'll try to get it onto the very next edition of the Web Hosting Show. If you want any more news headlines or anything else mentioned in this segment of the show, make sure you go check out WebHostingShow.com. The Web Hosting Show's hosting deals and steals are brought to you each and every week by AllHostingDeals.com. AllHostingDeals.com is your number one place to find web hosting offers that are just too good to be true. Now, this week's deal comes from EasyCGI.com. They are offering 3,000 megabytes of disk space, 50 gigabytes data transfer, CGI bin with Perl, PHP, ASP, 50 POP3 email accounts, MS Access, MySQL, Microsoft SQL Server 2000, Web Trends reports, and oh so much more. Now, what's the asking price? What are they asking from you? All they want from you is $7.96 a month. Now, that's not too shabby, is it? Now, do you have a web hosting deal that's too good to be true you'd like to share with everybody right here on the Web Hosting Show? Make sure you email me at Mitch@MitchKeeler.com, and I'll be sure to tell everybody I know about it on the very next edition of the Web Hosting Show. All of my web hosting thoughts, views, and ideas are brought to you by Data Center Talk. Data Center Talk is the best set of forums on the earth to talk about web hosting data centers. Now, the first topic I wanted to get off my chest for my own views and ideas on the web hosting world this week, Kushin.com's Kushin Designs has a very special deal out there for any and all non-profit organizations that might be out there. With the launch of their new Kushin Designs service, they're giving away web designs to the first come, first serve kind of basis, just giving away free designs to all non-profit organizations that may come their way. When I asked the folks over at Kushin.com why they're doing this, they told me that they just want to give something special back to the internet community and help those organizations out there get a good online presence. If you're interested or you know somebody else that might be interested in it, you might just tell them to go stop over at Kushin.com. Now, I got an email this week from David, and he had this to say. I host websites online for backup and medical practices. We're thinking about moving our current Colbat racks to a Linux/Apache route. I've looked at control panels from Plesk to cPanel to NSYM. In your opinion, which one is the easiest and most cost-effective? Well, thank you first for the email, David. Now, all the control panels you've listed there, they're all pretty good. I mean, I can't say, by 10 topics or so, they're better than the next one. I mean, all control panels are pretty much made evenly these days. That's pretty safe to say. But even with my negative comments last week about, the design flaws in cPanel's X theme, I would still say that cPanel would probably be the best way you could go. The folks over at cPanel are the most in-demand and popular control panel out there right now. So why go out there with the most popular one? Well, if you have any problems, chances are somebody else has had that problem before you did. So in that aspect, support and troubleshooting for problems that might come up, that'll be a little easier for you if you go with one that's a little better recognized and more well known. I also feel like it's the most simple one to learn and the best control panel out there today. Just, flat out, it's one of the best. So, sure, it has a few design flaws, but, try to find something out there that doesn't. Now, I'll make sure that I include a 3-part article series I wrote up a couple of weeks ago about all the control panels that I could find out there, and you can have, check out that link. There's a lot more control panels out there other than just cPanel, NSYM, Plesk, and all those. So check that out at webhostingshow.com right in the show notes for this episode of the Web Hosting Show. Now, I just got this press release delivered to me today. I want to share it with you, then my thoughts about this whole voice over IP stuff. Now, monsterhosting.ca, a Canadian web hosting and e-commerce solution provider, announced today that its plans to launch a voice over internet protocol, voice over IP, VoIP, whatever you want to call it, service, making it the first Canadian web host to do so, and opening a new chapter for the British Columbia-based company. Now, this seems to be a whole slow trend into the whole web hosting industry right now. I see more and more web hosting companies going into the whole area of VoIP, voice over IP, whatever you want to call it. Now, what do I think about all this? Now, I think it's a smart business solution out there for the companies that can afford to spend the money down the road. It's obvious that VoIP is going to be the way of the future, and I'm happy to see that yet again, the web hosting industry is playing a big key part in the world's inventions out there and innovations. Now, the thing that keeps me from saying this is big, huge news is the fact that, I don't know why these companies are doing all this. Now, how about, a web hosting company going out there to benefit, I don't really get, it's just confusing. Now, until somebody can explain all this crap to me, I'm not really going to get that excited about it. A lot of it's, kind of pie in the sky, not really understanding, it might happen someday kind of stuff. But right now, it seems about as exciting as a web host buying a new server. It's just not that cool yet. And I want somebody out there to explain to me why the web hosting world should get excited about this stuff. I mean, down the road and into the future, I can see it being exciting. But right now, what's the big deal? Now, do you have any web hosting topics of discussion that you'd like to hear me cover on the very next edition of the Web Hosting Show? Then make sure you send them to me at mitch@mitchkeeler.com, and I'll try to get them onto the very next edition of this podcast. All of the Web Hosting Show's design help is brought to you each and every week by browsehosts.com. BrowseHost is the most comprehensive web hosting directory out there today. Now this week's website that needs a little help is beyondhost.net. Now right now, going to your front page, I see that there's a lot of images. I hope this is just you placing your design up for folks to check out right now without having to worry about people stealing your layout. Now, if you really want to convert all this to CSS and HTML, that would probably be the best way you could do it. I really hope the image format is not the final design of the website, and I'd like to see all this converted over into actual code. Now, I like the color usage on the page with the black and white background with just kind of flashes of color here and there. I would work a little bit more color into your main graphic, though. I mean, I want it to seem like the whole web hosting world is all black and white till you reach your web hosting company. That's the kind of message that you can convey there with that main web hosting graphic there that you have on the main page. Now, some more of the web pages inside still need a little more filling out, but you're off to a great start, and I wish you all the success in the world. Now, do you need help with your website design? Would you like me to just tell you what I think you could do to make your web presence just that much better? Make sure you contact me at Mitch@MitchKeeler.com, and I'll try to get your questions answered and your website reviewed on the very next edition of the Web Hosting Show. This week's Web Hosting Website of the Week is brought to you by Banner's World. Banner's World is the #1 place to visit to get all of your website graphics, banners, and designs done. Our first web hosting website of the week, we got two for you this week, is HostPulse.com. HostPulse is a dedicated server and hosting directory. They feature a list of the top 25 web hosts out there, hosting articles, any news on the web hosting industry itself. They have a nice little search for a web host feature as well that you see on a lot of other web hosting websites that lets you put in your disk space that you want and your bandwidth needs, and you can find a web host that's just right for you. Now, our second web hosting website of the week this week is Inside ISPCon, the official blog for the ISPCon fall event. The website looks very nice. It's got a very good looking standard blog there. I like to see the folks at ISPCon, I like to see that they're blogging because it makes it feel like I have an easier place to go and understand what all's going on there. ISPCon is not just for the big ISPs out there. It's also a big event for the web hosting world as well. I even noticed that they have a section marked off for podcasts. So it'll be very interesting to see what kind of content they can produce and put up there. So check out HostPulse and Inside ISPCon, and when you do, make sure that you let them know that the Web Hosting Show sent you there. Now, do you have a website that deserves to be the next web hosting website of the week? Make sure you send it to me at Mitch@MitchKeeler.com, and I'll try to get into the very next edition of the Web Hosting Show. Well, that's it for this week's show. Make sure you send me any feedback, thoughts, suggestions, or ideas you might have. You can send it to my voicemail account over at Skype. My name on there is Mitch Keeler, no space in between. You can write me an email at Mitch@MitchKeeler.com. Tell me whatever you want to tell me there. Or you can post on the forums over at Web Hosting Chat. Next week we'll be doing more of the same. I am Mitch Keeler, and you've been listening to the Web Hosting Show, the voice of the web hosting world. Make sure you tune in on Thursday for our next Web Hosting Show Thursday special. And, well, if I don't see you then I'll see you next Monday right here on this very podcast.